Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Blue Feathered Stories. This is your hostess, Blue Thunderbird Woman. Thank you so much for joining me here today. May the 19th. Didn't we just start with that month? It feels like such a weird time warp. I want to thank you all for those of you who have been listening, who have been subscribing. Thank you so much. There's been a really interesting phenomena around YouTube. I've been posting the podcast to YouTube in the last couple of months. And all of a sudden, the subscriptions have gone from a couple to over 1,000. So I'm super excited about that. That's really kind of cool. Energetically, what's happening out there. So really, thank you so much. And if you like what I'm sharing and any of this resonates to you, you're always welcome to make some comments and send me some feedback, good or bad. It's all good to me. And so thank you for joining me on this journey. As I'm recording this today, I'm in the last day of facilitating my very first virtual retreat. You guys, if you've been following me on this podcast, you know that I've been announcing it. It's called Navigating Your Spiritual Footprint. So I'm literally squeezing in this recording in the midst of this facilitating this beautiful process with some amazing soul sisters that have come out to do some really, really hard work. So that has been super cool. And in the process of facilitating, there's something really beautiful that has happened, kind of like aside. And I wanted to share about the beauty of what my husband and I are currently witnessing right now. But I want to give you a little bit of background information before I actually share the beautiful manifestation that has happened. And so I want to talk a little bit about something that we call knowing, and something that we may call premonition. So premonitions and knowing, sometimes I think they're a little bit about really the same thing. I have shared with you some of my premonitions in my soulmate podcast. I may have even shared a little snippet of premonitions around my mom's death. But I want to get into something that has happened 2 years ago, a premonition that I received, and how that has all come out into its manifestation. So first of all, my father died at the age of 75, and I can't tell you exactly how many years ago that has been. I think it's 15 years now that he has been in spirit. Yeah, I think it's 15 years that he's been in the spirit form. And a year prior to his passing, I received a premonition, a knowing. And I'm pretty sure I shared bits and pieces of this before, but I was walking my dog around the block and I came to this one particular intersection. And all of a sudden I had to stop, and I felt this wave of energy come over my head all the way down to my feet. And the vision that I got, or the message that I received, was that my father had less than a year to live, or about a year to live, that he was going to be dying. And I remember just standing there with my dog and really taking that message in. And I remember it was a very physical experience. I started to shake and I started to cry, and very, very emotional around the prospect that my father wouldn't be around for that much longer. So it was like, as we become more spiritually, intuitively connected, when we get these kinds of messages, that's like, what do you do with that? And then about 2 years ago, I received several knowings or premonitions that I was going to lose 3 souls in the following year. And I actually would even backtrack that even further, because I remember having my astrology chart done for me. And I remember my friend who'd done the astrology chart had shared with me that 2019 was going to be, there were 3 big things that were going to happen, and it was going to be a difficult time, is I think how he explained it. And I remember asking him and saying, oh, are people dying? And when you do that kind of work, I guess, your ethical reasons, you're not allowed to say yes. So he was quiet about it, and he didn't say too much more about it. But I had received then a message 2 years ago that there would be 3 souls that would be leaving me in 2019. And I had a sense that my mother and my mother-in-law, my 2 mothers, would be 2 of the souls, but I had no idea who the 3rd soul was. And I remember sitting with that and going, yeah, I don't know who that is. That could be anybody. It could be my husband. It could be my brother. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea who it is. But I really sensed that the mothers were definitely 2 of the souls for sure. And then something really interesting happened, is that my mother-in-law in 2019 started to have more episodes of having to be brought by ambulance to the emergency for having difficulties breathing. And what ended up happening in 2 of those cases, that she ended up with a pneumonia and having a lot of water on the lungs and water in the legs, and all had to do with the fact that her heart couldn't pump the water enough, and her kidneys were having issues with releasing the water out of the body, and that ended up creating a buildup in the lungs, which created the pneumonia. And so that was happening quite a few times in 2019. And then after the first episode of bringing her to the emergency, dog Luna started to have some breathing issues. And when we brought her in to get her checked and x-rayed, we found out that she also had pneumonia. Also had pneumonia. And during this period of time, my husband was very heavy-hearted of worry around his mother and the suffering that she was having physically with these issues with the lungs and the heart and the kidneys. And then just that worry of not wanting to, let her go, not wanting to release her, and her worrying about leaving him behind, and he's an only child. And so there was just a lot of emotions around the heart and the lungs. And my understanding is that our animals and our pets, they often will take on the energies of their masters. And so my understanding of what was happening was that literally the worry that my husband had around his mother with her pneumonias and her lung issues was exactly what the dog was absorbing from my husband, that's how I saw that. In May of 2019, on May 16th, my mother passed. And I may or may not have shared before, but in her passing, she really, the death process, maybe we'll talk about this at some point in another podcast, but it's really a beautiful, beautiful process. And it's truly, for me, an honor to be a witness and to hold space for someone who is passing. I really truly believe that we have it backwards, that the death process is really the birth and the birth process is really the death. And what I mean by that is that when we die, we go back to full-on spirit form, which is our original form. Therefore, we're going home. And so that to me is a celebration. That to me is something just so magical and so beautiful. And the birth process is when we leave home. We leave our full spirit self and come into this human body to have this human experience on earth. And we forget who we are, and we forget and we feel detached from our spiritual higher selves. And so that to me is more like a death process. So I see things a little bit differently than most. But anyways, so Mom passed away on May 16th, which, as you know, that was only days away. And this was really bringing me to what we needed to talk about today. And so that was soul number one in my knowing, in my premonition. And before the funeral arrangements, or before the actual celebration of life for my mom, my mother-in-law had her third bout of emergency hospital visit around her lungs. And she was not able to make it to my mom's celebration of life. And I knew the knowing that she too would pass. It was just a matter of time. And literally a month later, I believe my mother-in-law passed away on June the 24th. So almost a month and a half later, Alice left her physical body and transcended to her original form and spirit. And again, another beautiful, beautiful, peaceful passing. Really an honor to witness that. So that was soul number two. So we were still remaining with this third soul, and I had been sharing with my husband that someone else is passing, but I didn't know the who, and I didn't know the when. You know, we're not always given everything in our premonitions. We just know it's going to unfold and take place. And then on August the 19th, we said goodbye to our beautiful, beautiful soul, Luna, who was a 8-year-old. I don't even think she made it to her 9th birthday. She was an Alaskan Malamute and a gentle, gentle, old soul. And we said goodbye to her that year. And I knew that at her passing, she was the third soul. But there was this part of me that was not willing to accept that our dog, our pet, would actually be the third soul. I don't know why I kept feeling that it needed to be a human. And so even in her passing, there was a teaching there for me, because really in shamanism, we believe that all sentient beings have spirit, which means we all have soul. So our pets are these animals that we bring into our daily lives. They are as close to us. We have these connections, even more so sometimes than humans. And so definitely she counts as a soul. And we said goodbye to Luna. So we lost 3 souls in 2019. And just as Mother Days just rolled around, and then my both mothers have birthdays in April, and that just passed. They'd been truly on my mind in reflection as to their presence in our lives and the contribution that they have made for us. We've had this phenomena, if you want, this past year, that these stray cats have been coming around the house. And I'm not just talking about the odd stray cat. I mean, at some point, I think I counted 5 different cats. We have 3 of our own, and they're indoor and outdoor cats. But these cats, I don't know if they belong to the neighbors or they're just stray barn cats or what. We live out in the country. And there was a lot of kitty energy going on around here, and they all seem to be hanging out around the house. That started in January, and it's very cold here in January. -30 is typically the usual temperature. So we started to leave the garage door open and putting some food out just for the strays in case they needed a warm place to sleep and something to eat. And here we go. I probably won't pick this up, but as I'm recording this, I can hear a cat outside meowing and another one in the house waking up from its slumber and coming out to check where the meowing is coming from. Oh, right on cue. Any case, and then we started to notice this one particular cat that was around all the time, and she was in and out of the garage constantly coming in and out. And we managed to sort of befriend her and pet her. And I even picked her up the other day. And we named her Snoopy, because I always felt like she was snooping around to see what was going on in the garage. It was really just interesting to observe the behavior of this stray cat. And then like literally probably a week before Mother's Day, I just had this feeling, this knowing again, that there was something special about this cat. And I was thinking, I wonder if the mothers, who are both crazy about cats, if they're sending this cat to us, like what was happening in a bigger spiritual picture, like what was really going on. And then we started to notice the behavior of this cat that we called Snoopy, and how she was really adamant about going into the garage, and how she would attack our other cats all of a sudden, like really being quite ferocious with them. And we thought, wow, what's going on here? Like, what's happening here? And then I remember saying to Grant, we probably should get this cat fixed. And my husband's like, well, why would we want to do that for? It's not our cat. And I'm like, yeah, I just have a feeling we might want to get her fixed. Like, she's probably not fixed. And then all of a sudden I notice her one day, and I'm looking at her belly as she's walking by, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know, she might actually be pregnant. He goes, really? And I'm thinking, yeah, she might actually be pregnant. And of course, I've never been around a cat that's been pregnant. I've never witnessed any of that. But it's just, again, it's this feeling, it's this knowing, it's like this understanding deeply. I said to my husband, I go, why don't you follow her into the garage? So he did. He followed her, and he watched her from a distance, and we saw her jump up like all these different shelves and things. And she jumped up into this area that's a bit of a loft with a whole bunch of insulation. And she jumps up there, and as soon as she jumped up, my husband heard this meow, 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 meow. And we're like, he comes out and he says, oh my gosh, I think she's had kittens. I think I heard them. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Now I understand her behavior. So I finally got the courage to go up and actually take a look and see if I could find these kittens. And there were 3 of them. 3 not more than 1 week old kittens that arrived literally probably on Mother's Day. And I went, wow. 3 kittens, 3 souls. Doesn't get any better than that, does it? We lose 3 souls, we gain 3 souls. Spirit works in the most magical and wonderful way. And I truly feel that this was a gift from spirit of our mothers, spirit from my dog Luna, that this cat has come into our lives, that she's given birth to 3 tiny little souls to remind us that they're with us, to remind us that we can love again, because who can't love a kitten, and to give us the most amazing experience of witnessing an animal who will defend to death to take care of its young. To watch the little kittens grow up and play, and that youthfulness and that wonderment, it truly is magical, and it truly is a gift. So as I reflect on the 3 souls that I lost, because this is when it started at this time of the year, I am also given the gift of 3 new souls. And that is a beautiful gift. Yeah, it is. I just wanted to share that with you today. The podcast is short and sweet, if you will, on a sweet ending. I will at some point post some pictures of these 3 little beautiful souls that we have living in our garage right now with her good mom. And we live in a world of recycle, of death and birth and death and birth. And that is the cycle of life. And if we pay attention, there is so much beauty in our world. So I'll leave you with that. Akishikone hiki ina rakitiki no sokono. Prahitikine ahishishe o umone na e. Ekane hisite inina ini. Horohe kine ha ishusho umo otina ha hita. Thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. We'll see you on the 1st. Namaste.